if you have a desire in your heart, if you're looking to achieve something, or you have a certain goal that's really big, that's really important to you, submit that up until God, and he will honor that. He will bless that. You can ask for the desires of your heart. Ask him, and as long as you honor him before everything that you do and everything that you would do, you'll be granted the desires of your heart. It may not be on your timing. It may not be in the way that you expected it to be delivered, because also God, it's not one of God's promises that he promised us an easy life. That was not one of his promises. My name is Darvini Charles, and I am your host. It has been a really long time. It is currently 1 a.m., maybe even 1:30, but I said it's been a long time since I've recorded something, so we're gonna record it regardless. Yeah. Okay, so as you know, it has been quite some time since I've last recorded an episode. You can literally see me right now. I'm actually getting ready for bed because I am really tired, but like I said earlier, I was like, I did not want today the day's already over, but I said that I didn't want the day to pass me by for me to not have at least recorded an episode. It's been a really long time, and I figured, like, why not? So let's get into it. Today's episode, we're just gonna be talking about life a little bit. So today's key verse is Isaiah 40. Let me just grab my Bible. It's Isaiah 40, verse 31. And it says this. Ooh, let me finish tying my head first. Okay, we're in business. So Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 says, "But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." So I selected that verse because I feel like okay, so number one, it's on my wall. It's on my calendar over there as like my verse of the month to meditate on, to remember, to memorize it for when I need it. But I guess I'll just get into it a little bit, just explaining like, okay, where I've been, what's been going on, etc., etc. A quick update. So lately there have been a lot of unexpected events. I went from living in a house with 7 family members to now 13. I am due to finishing school in 2 months. Let's see, I'm on my way. I've begun job search, looking for a big girl job. There's just been a lot of changes, and I feel like life has been moving faster than I can keep up with. And so there was a point where I was feeling really, really drained. My everyday I just felt like meh. And I felt that it was really important that I make this video. Because I felt it on my chest that, like, you know, I shouldn't shy away from the camera whenever life gets rough. I should really continue to operate in my purpose, continue to do the things that I normally do, regardless of how I feel. And honestly, I think that's the beauty of the gift that God has given me, to be able to share with others, like what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through, so I might be able to share with you, and hopefully help you on your journeys of life as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what has been going on. over the past month or two. I believe it's been 2 months, yes. And that verse for me, Isaiah 40, verse 31, has been really key for me because I was feeling overwhelmed. I had no energy. I was weak, felt tired. I'm not even gonna lie and be like, oh, was this, was that, because I'm low key still struggling. It's a lot. I'm currently wedding planning. I have a friend that's getting married in May. And I'm the maid of honor, so shout out to her. Shout out to Tabby. Love you, girl. But yeah, life is kind of a lot right now, so I hope that that today's episode just touches you and helps you in a way that might help you get through this difficult time as well. So to sum it all up, I am currently in a season of wilderness. So I decided, all right, like, let's talk about that. So what happens? So what is a season of wilderness? The season of wilderness is a time described as basically where you don't know what's gonna come next. Like, you've done all that you can do to plan, right? Like, you have your goals, and you have a few ordered steps that you want to do to be able to reach them, to accomplish those goals. But like, because life be lifing, like there comes a certain point where you kind of can't plan anymore. Like, you can only plan so much up until you reach a point where you can't really plan anymore, and the rest is in God's hands. And so that's where I am right now. I'm like on my way of like accomplishing everything that I had set out for myself. And I've now reached a point where I kind of like can't really plan anymore. I have the goals, and the rest is up in God's hands for him to take care. And I think one of the really toughest things about seasons of wilderness is that this is where your faith is tested the most. And I think although that it's a very tough time, it's also a very crucial time too as well. This is where I believe that seasons of wilderness are necessary so that we might be able to grow closer to God. God uses us in our weakness to draw us closer to him. If everything was peachy, keen, and dandy, then we would never really, give God like a second thought. Like, most of us treat him like a genie in a bottle. Like, God grant me this wish, God grant me that wish. But that's not who he is. He's a loving father that does care for you, does want to take care of you, does hear you. And I feel like during seasons of wilderness, that's something that's really important, that we should remember that God does see you, and God does hear you, and he does have a plan. Now, his plan may not look like how our plans are, and his timing is most definitely not on our timing as well. And so that's something that we really have to be mindful of and remind ourselves of that. Seasons of wilderness are really painful, and they're difficult because, like, all you're thinking of is from a state of lack. Like, this is what I don't have, this is what I don't have, this is what I don't have. But you have to also realize that there's never going to be a point where you're going to have everything that you want, or all the desires of your heart. I saw something today. It said something like, oh, your desires want you as much as you want them. Just wait and your desires will be yours. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, that sounds nice and dandy, but at the same time, that's not it, Chief. Our desires, if we looked at the world through a means of our desires and our emotions, we would never come to a place where we could genuinely be satisfied with where we are in the present. We would come to a place where we would never be satisfied in finding and making peace with who we are and where we are right here, right now. So if you were to say, oh, that my desires want me as much as I want them, is not necessarily a good thing. Maybe that's a hot take, but that's just me. But something that is very key to remember is that we often feel as though God doesn't hear us, he doesn't love us, he doesn't care for us. But just know that he does. He is there with us in the middle of the storm. He's there with us in the boat. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it in the Bible for y'all. I was literally reading it the other day. I'm going to find it and put it up like here on the screen or something. That place in the Bible where it talks about like Jesus being in the boat with the disciples, and the disciples were like, Lord, like Jesus, aren't you afraid? Like we're gonna die and you're out here and you're sleeping. I'm gonna put it up here. I promise. I'll put it here so you can see it. But yes, that's basically what had happened. And Jesus was in the boat. It was in the middle of the storm, and then he said to them this. He said, so Jesus asked them, why are you afraid? Have you no faith? And then he silenced the storm and the waves, and the sea was calm and everything was good. But it makes me think of us, because like what happens if God doesn't silence the storm or take it away? What happens then? Like, does that then merit us to say, God, you don't love me, you don't care for me, you were just gonna let me die? Like that's it. And then you're just angry, right? I think a lot of us rather than having God say, you know, peace be with you, I am with you in the midst of your storm, we just kind of expect him to take it away altogether. But sometimes the storm is necessary. It's necessary for us to go through things, because that is what draws us closer to him. And that is what helps us to grow, like as human beings, honestly. Yeah, there's just a lot where I feel like in that story that reflects us and how we operate on a day-to-day basis, and how we view God, how we treat him. So coming back to being in a season of wilderness, whenever life be lifing, it's really important to try to find the balance when part of us, when like knowing when it's okay to take a step back and to kind of put life on pause, or put things that aren't priorities on pause, so that way you can put God first and other things that are priorities as well, up to the forefront, versus just continuing life as is, because life kind of doesn't stop for anyone. And that's kind of like a harsh reality, living in America. I think that everybody knows, like, you know, that the American dream kind of doesn't exist. But life doesn't really stop for anybody. If you're in a tragic circumstance or anything like that, or really difficult time, experiencing a lot of hardships, like it kind of slaps you across the face that nobody is a favorite. Nobody is favored over anybody else. Life be lifing for everybody in different ways and different times, and things like that. But when life be lifing, it's really important to remember, because we're really, really good at forgetting. We're really good at forgetting who God is and what he's promised us and what it says in his word. If you have a desire in your heart, if you're looking to achieve something, or you have a certain goal that's really big, that's really important to you, submit that up until God, and he will honor that. He will bless that. You can ask for the desires of your heart. Ask him, and as long as you honor him before everything that you do and everything that you would do, you'll be granted the desires of your heart. It may not be on your timing. It may not be in the way that you expected it to be delivered, because also God, it's not one of God's promises that he promised us an easy life. That was not one of his promises. But what he does say is that if you honor him and if you love him and you put your heart, like you check your heart posture and you make sure that it is righteous, and that and that love is reflected in everything that you do. Love of God, love of others, love of self. And when I say love of self, I don't mean, you know, self-indulgence, selfishness, but because you so honor, you honor God so much that it is reflected in all of the decisions that you make for your life. As long as you do these things, God will see you and your desires, and he will bless them and he will honor them. And sometimes, like, it's really important for us to remember, like, sometimes if things don't work out the way that we expected them, or wanted them to turn out, it's not necessarily that God doesn't care or doesn't see you. Like, sometimes a no is a blessing. Sometimes a no is protection. Like, what's that phrase? I think it's like God's prevention is God's protection. I know I'm not saying it right, but it's something along the lines of that. Like, sometimes God saying no, like, we be taking that personal. We take it to the heart. And it causes us to have, like, strife with God. We're angry with him. We don't want to talk to him. Like, God, why didn't you do this? Why couldn't I have that? Why did this happen? Why did that not happen? And sometimes it's really hard. Like, you're not going to have the answer to those questions. But when you don't have the answer to those questions, not having the answer doesn't mean that God isn't good and that his ways aren't just, and that he doesn't see you, that he doesn't love you, that he doesn't care for you. That's the times we really need to lean on him the most. Because when you start to experience, feelings of doubt and desolation and isolation, that makes room for the enemy to come into your life to lead you astray. Now you're doing things that you never thought that you would be doing before. Now you're saying things and acting in a way that you wasn't acting before, but now you're acting in a certain way because of your unbelief. And so I would just end this by saying, if that is where you are right now, you need to pray and ask God to help your unbelief. Ask him to help make your desires pure, to help you love the things that he loves and to hate the things that he hates. Because it isn't innately in us to see life in that way. Ask God to see life through his eyes, even if it's momentarily. Ask him for discernment and for understanding. Ask him for peace in the middle of your storm. And he will be there. He is always there. But it's up to you. If you don't know where he is, it is 100% up to you to ask, Lord, where are you? And he will say to you, here I am. And the whole time, he was right here. He was right here, right next to you. But you probably didn't see him because you were looking in the opposite direction. You probably didn't hear him because you weren't in a position of wanting to listen. So these are all the things that I have to say about that. This is where I am at currently. But I know that God is going to carry me through. He did it before, and he will do it again. You just have to be patient with yourself. Be patient with God, and don't take matters into your own hands, because whenever we do it, we always mess up. Like, the reward of waiting for the gifts and the blessings that God has to give is so much more than what we could ever choose and settle for upon our own accord. And just going back to earlier, how about that little phrase, the, oh, my desires want me as much as I want them. Check your heart. Are your desires pure? If they aren't, then where are your desires leading you? If your desires aren't pushing you closer to God, and they're pushing you further away from him. So, yeah. I mean, I guess that's all I have to say about that. If you see me change my shirt, whatever, it's because I originally recorded the end of this and I lost the recording. I accidentally deleted it, but here's the end results. Thank you for listening. It is now almost like 10 a.m. I'm about to go to school. I'm about to get ready for class. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, send it to a friend. I really pray that this speaks to your heart, that you get something from this today. And I hope that it is an encouragement to you in your walk with God. And even if you're in a position where you don't really believe in God, or that you're in a season of unbelief, I pray that there was something within this that really struck your heart. And that might bring you to a place where you can come before God in a way that you've never come before him before. And you can have that intimate time with him. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, bye. Okay, one last thing before I head out for real. How much more beautiful is sunshine, is goodness, considering us knowing what the storm looks like? Like, how much more beautiful are the things in life that are good, because we know what an absence of goodness looks like. Like, it makes me think of, like, when God it says it in his word. Like, people think that hell is a place that's like terrible, etc., etc. And yes, of course it is. But the Lord had affirmed, he said, hell is a place where I am not, where there is no goodness, where there is no love, where there is no peace, where there is no joy. Like, darkness is just the absence of light. But drawing it back to our struggles and our pain. I don't say this to invalidate people's pain and people's struggle, but it's kind of like, it's a different perspective on the human life and the human condition, knowing that we know goodness and we know the things in life that are beautiful as such, because we know what the opposite is. So without the opposite, like, the opposite is what makes us human beings. Without the opposite, we would just be controlled dummy puppets that just do as God pleases and as he commands. But we are left with the choice. We are left to accept him or to reject him. And this is what makes life as it is. This is what makes goodness good. I don't know. Just food for thought. Just something that came to my mind. Okay, I'm done. Bye.
Hold on, wait, now let me go tell you about Jesus. Now let me go tell you my reason for why I'm believing.